Welcome back to Why We Buy It. How did our most recent cruise go on the Celebrity Solstice? We departed from Hong Kong, we went through Vietnam and Thailand, and ended in Singapore. Today we're going to talk a little bit about what we thought of this particular cruise.
So I'm going to start with the ship, and we've been on Celebrity before. We were on the Reflection. This time we went on the Solstice, so it's a sister ship. We kind of knew what we were expecting going into it.
And just so you know, the Celebrity Reflection was actually our honeymoon. It was the first cruise we went on together.
So it has a special place in our heart. But like I said, we did know what we were kind of expecting going into this ship, and it exceeded our expectations. This ship is a mid-sized ship, very, very well taken care of. And the one thing that surprised us, which we really don't care about that much, but was the size of the room. The size of the room was huge.
Yeah, and keep in mind, we don't pay up for rooms, right? We get the basic inside stateroom. We never really pay up for rooms. Keep in mind, this is an older ship, right? It has not been refurbished as far as I know. Mm-hmm. And it hasn't had the most recent refurbishment, which meant, unlike the Reflection, which now has the retreat on it, the Celebrity Retreat. Yeah, it has it. The Solstice does not. Yeah. So you have full access to the entire ship. It does not currently have the retreat involved.
Which we love.
Yeah. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the service on the ship. We expected good service. We got excellent service.
Exceptional.
It's one of the things that draws us to cruising, really, right? Is the great service you get on these cruise ships, right? The staff generally go above and beyond. We had one issue, kind of an isolated issue. Things happen, but for the most part, we can't complain on every level of the ship. The service is just absolutely fantastic. And it really lends itself to that luxury feel that you get from Celebrity.
Yeah. The next thing we're going to move on to is the itinerary on the ship. Now, I was so impressed with the itinerary. And the first thing I'm going to say that really stood out to us was they had something going on all the time, but everything was perfectly timed.
And different.
Everything was like, we're going to do this fun thing. It's going to be 30 minutes, done. Perfect, because by the time that's over, you have like another 20 minutes to get to the next thing that was happening. And the other thing that really stood out to us was the cruise director. I've never witnessed a cruise director be so involved with all the activities that were going on. He wasn't just pointing, you go here, you go here, you go here. He actually did comedy sets. He did little presentations, and he was a fun guy to begin with. So
they literally squeezed every last dollar out of this guy's salary. Yeah. He was constantly involved in so many different things. Like she said, he did comedy in the evenings, he did talks during the day. He was just an interesting guy to get to know. Yeah. Really, so and he was involved.
Enjoyed it. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And everyone raved about the itinerary. And there was no sales pitch. It was, guys, we're going to play cornhole, or we're going to play ping pong, or we're going to play golf, and we're going to do it for 30 minutes and be done.
Well, hold on a second. There was no hidden sales pitch, which is something we've experienced on some other cruises. Yes. We'll do a comparison between Celebrity and Princess coming up in another video after this one, where that'll be a little bit of the highlight. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, you knew when you're going to a sales presentation. It was pretty obvious, and they did pretty well.
Yeah, they did extremely
well. For a ship with an itinerary that didn't push the sales on you, we went to a couple of the Park West auctions. They did well. Yeah. We saw people buying high-end watches, people buying jewelry. They did very well on this cruise, so kudos to them. I think it had partially to do with the location, but we'll get into that when we talk ports. Yeah. I'm going to talk a little bit about the shops themselves now that we brought it up. Mm-hmm. And that every cruise ship has its certain shops that you are used to.
Effie.
Yeah, you'll see the Effie stores. You'll see the branded store, right? In some cases, it's Princess clothing if you're on Princess. Celebrity clothing on Celebrity. They'll have something that's specifically geared to that particular ship, right? Basically souvenirs. Yes. And then you have the necessities shops and the clothing shops. But what I liked about this particular cruise on this particular ship, the Celebrity Solstice, is one of the things I'm interested in is watches. I'm a watch guy. If you follow the channel, you've probably noticed. And on this ship, they actually had a Breitling boutique.
Yeah, it was
It's
cool.
not something I expected,
no.
Right? It's not something I had researched going into it. But they had a full boutique for Breitling that had all the new models. Pretty much everything you could think of that Breitling carries was there. And they sold a couple of Breitlings, so kudos to them. On top of that, they also had certified owned Rolex on the ship. So they had a number of certified Rolexes. They were obviously previously owned. These are secondhand Rolexes, but it gave you an opportunity to see some of those classic Rolex designs. I'm not going to buy a Rolex anytime soon, but want to try one on? I could.
Yeah.
See what it looks like on me. So that was an interesting bonus. The other thing is that they really used the shops to good effect when it came to the itinerary.
Yeah.
Right? They had special talks based on specific models of watches. They did a fashion show with the Effie jewelry, and they used people from the ship, right, to model the jewelry and such. It was a lot of fun. And going back on the itineraries, one of the things that really surprised me, and though we see this on every single ship, but anyone who's cruised has at least one time seen the guests versus officers competition that they'll have on the ship. And they generally maybe have one a week.
Yeah.
This was almost every day.
Yeah.
Almost every day they did a guests versus officers, and it could have been something like cornhole, it could have been something like stacking cups. Each day was something different, but it was just a lot of fun. It was generally a 20-minute little contest. Yeah. It was a blast.
And they switched out the officers, so you got to actually meet new officers.
So many of them,
cool.
right?
Yeah.
So they did a very good job, both on the execution of the itinerary and the way they involved the shops with it as well. We had a blast.
We had so much fun. So the next is the big one, is the ports. And why we mainly chose this itinerary was because of the ports. And you get a little bit of everything on this trip, right? You get culture, you get beaches, you get,
nature,
the food, the people, everything. Everything you could have ever wanted was on these ports.
Yeah, like I learned a lot on this cruise. I learned a lot on this cruise because it's so foreign to us, right? As Canadians, people from North America, that's about as foreign as it gets, right? Buddhist temples blew me away, right? You've got the history that it's not as close to us as it is to Americans, but you got the Vietnam War history that you're going to experience if you want to experience, to get a peek at what was going on at that time and hear a little bit about the history from their perspective as opposed from the Hollywood perspective, which most of us know it from, right? The nature that you experience there is
unbelievable.
Right up there with going to Alaska. Like it's on par with that. It blows you away. And then, the beaches are available to you if that's your thing. And, we took advantage of all of it. Yeah. It's an itinerary that gives you everything. If I had to compare it to the other itineraries we've been on and to some of the most popular itineraries in cruising, which is the Mediterranean, Alaska, and Caribbean, it beats them.
Yeah.
It beats them. And the only reason it's not ranked higher is because it's so isolated, right?
It's a long flight.
Yeah, well, we'll do a short video on our flight just to give you guys something to laugh about later. But it's a pretty long flight to get there if you're from North America. So that's the only thing that keeps it off the top three. But to me, it's number one. Yeah. It's number one.
It was incredible.
And speaking of number one, the best thing about this cruise, oh my God, is the food. The dining specifically on this cruise is absolutely incredible. And every ship has its specialty dining. Yes. But you don't need it on Celebrity.
You don't, but we did. We did the Le Petit Chef. Sorry, I will say that. But yeah, the dining was absolutely incredible. The presentation was phenomenal. The food, I don't think I've had better. Right?
No,
I was like, even on the reflection, the reflection we raved about forever, but I feel like this was better.
Yeah,
this was better.
There's a couple of spots where you can tell they've cut back a little bit, like the lobster tails aren't as big. You don't get an extra lobster tail for free like you used to. Now there's an additional charge if you want a second one. But honestly, the presentation, the level of preparation, and the choice
was incredible.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, we're not like, bougie eaters where we go out and get escargot and lobster tail every week. But
when it's a staple on the menu?
when it's a staple on the menu, I'm pretty sure I ate escargot almost every night. Yeah. Because I could.
We killed a snail colony. It's done. It's game over. The fact that escargot is a staple, it blew my mind. The very first night, we're looking at the menu, and I'm like, wait a minute.
It's on the right side of the menu.
It's on the staple side. I asked our waiter, so hold on a second, escargot, that's not every day. They're like, yeah, it's a staple. Like, really? Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna eat a lot of escargot, which is exactly what happened because you get jacked for escargot in Toronto. Let's be honest.
You just don't have it.
Right?
You get the side salad.
And unlike a lot of places you may go, it was well-prepared escargot. I had escargot probably 6 or 7 times, and I didn't come across grit, not once.
Yeah.
So perfectly clean, perfectly prepared.
Yeah.
I can't talk well enough about the food.
No.
Numero uno.
It was so good. And on top of that, we had one of the best waiters I could have ever asked for.
Swandika was the money, right?
So
that guy was excellent.
He went above and beyond for us, like every night. If we, if we put down a fork, like the next thing was coming. Like he was on the ball. He was so sweet, so well taken care of. Like, we absolutely loved him.
So let's give our overall ranking of this particular cruise, right? So we're talking the 12-night Celebrity Solstice, Southeast Asia.
I'm going with a 9.
Yeah, I'm right with you. It's a 9. It's a 9.
Yeah.
And it's not a 9 because we refuse to give a perfect score. It's a 9 because there are a couple of things we can kind of niggle about. And the first one, for me at least, was the Celebrity House performers were pretty mediocre. We've been on a number of cruises, and that was one of the worst groups that we've had. And it isn't entirely because of them. It's also because of the lack of work they put into the
set.
Yeah, the sets and the special effects, the lighting. It was all pretty mediocre. It felt very high school to me. That was one of the weak spots of this particular cruise. The guest performers,
phenomenal.
Fantastic.
Phenomenal.
But we learned pretty quick, maybe after the 3rd time we saw the celebrity performers, we're like, okay, that's enough of that.
Yeah.
And whenever they were scheduled in the 2nd week, we just didn't bother going.
Right. So the other thing that kind of lacked, at least for me, and we'll do a full review of this in our comparison video, but was the extra restaurants. So like
basic restaurants.
Basic restaurants, sorry. So like the grill, Cafe Au Bacio, anything like that, it was okay. Like I'm not gonna say that it wasn't above and beyond. It was nowhere near close to the restaurant. Like if we had a chance to go to the restaurant for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that's what we did.
Yeah, like so with Celebrity Solstice, they don't do lunch on
port days.
On port days in the main restaurant.
Yeah.
So those are the days where you're like, oh, I guess we'll have to try the grill or something.
Yeah.
But for the most part, port days were usually off the ship.
Yeah.
Right? And if we have the opportunity to eat off the ship on a port day, that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
If we happen to be back early, it was the odd time that we'd get something from the grill or, one of those like basic restaurants available to you. But it wasn't something we were looking forward to.
No.
It wasn't like what we had on Princess Cruises where we did look forward to some of those additional restaurants as opposed to just the main dining.
Yeah.
So that was something that lacked a little bit.
But give me a 9 any day of the week, guys. Like,
yeah, if you promise me a 9, I'm booking it.
booking it.
You're not expecting a 10 every time you go on a ship. Now maybe, who knows? Our next cruise we're planning to do with Cunard. So we're gonna step it up a little bit as far as the luxury goes. Maybe Cunard can get us to a 10.
Yeah.
But I honestly doubt it. I really do. It's hard to find a cruise line that gives you absolutely everything the way you just want it.
Yeah.
Right? So we'll see. But we'll see. You'll have to look forward to that one as well. But we got a number of videos coming up. Be sure to subscribe. Right? This channel is now gonna go full steam ahead.
Yeah.
Our goal is to give you the best advice possible based on our own experience.
Yeah.
And none of which is solicited by the people we're talking about.
Yeah.
So tune in, subscribe, and like if you enjoyed the video. Until next time.